and today we have a special guest named Evan Jaqua. How are you today, Evan?
I'm just wonderful. I'm so happy to be on your show, and I'm looking forward to a wonderful conversation.
Well, that is great to hear. So, would you like to tell us what you have for us today? Something called the Solutions Party and
Yes, I'd be
other
happy to.
initiative?
Sure, I'll be happy to talk a little bit about that. And I'll start off by saying that I've spent most of my life actually living in different countries. Spent many years in Japan, got my master's degree there, spent some time in China not too long after the Tiananmen Square incident, have spent many years, most recently in South America. And I've had the wonderful opportunity to talk to all kinds of different people about the different challenges they face in their countries regarding politics. And I've seen a lot of commonality, and I've heard a lot of really interesting ideas. So I decided to kind of summarize a lot of those ideas on my website / blog, which is www.solutionsparty.org. And it starts off the most fundamental idea behind the Solutions Party is really kind of a based on something very basic, and that is I like to tell people, the human brain is a wonderful, wonderful thing, but one of the weaknesses of the human brain is the ease with which it forms addictions. You can get addicted to alcohol, to drugs, to gambling, to
Yeah.
pornography, to social media. But what's been clear to me throughout my travels and talking to different people is probably the most addictive thing of all by far is power. And once people
Okay.
get power, they don't want to give it up, and they will
That's
do
true.
virtually anything to not only get it but to keep it and to even expand it. Things like truth in the vicious pursuit of power, truth and principles are completely irrelevant. And we see this in our politics, I think, daily, and we've seen it for decades. We've actually seen it throughout our history, but it's worsened recently,
Yeah.
where the priority of our politicians, their first priority is getting reelected and catering to their party interests. And how many times have you heard that such and such politician is not up for reelection, so now they can vote their conscience? Isn't it strange we hear that? Why aren't they always voting their conscience? Why are they
Right.
why are they voting in a way that they think is going to increase their chances of getting reelected instead of voting in ways that they think are really going to help move everybody forward? And
Right. Or
why,
be
you know,
beneficial. Right.
yeah, and, they spend at least half of their time, planning for the reelection, raising funds, attending partisan events, and it's like, if you hired me for a 4-year contract or a 2-year contract, and I spent half the time on the job just lobbying,
Right.
the upper management for an extension, I don't think you'd be too happy, and we shouldn't be happy with that either.
Right,
If you
it's like
also
a
caught
dance, like a merry-go-round or something, like a crazy popularity contest, like fun thing pointing fingers at this person or that person when really it's supposed to be taking care of the people of the country.
Exactly, exactly. And so what happens? We get, I used to work on a cattle ranch, and we had a lot of cows, and a few bulls. And when a cow would get in heat, all the three bulls would come and compete for that cow. Well, it's like a politician is sort of like a cow in heat, and all these special interests are like the bulls, and they all want to be with the with the with the politician. And
Okay, I like your
and
analogy.
yeah, it's honestly, they form this symbiotic relationship where they have the money to help keep that
They
politician in
feed
office,
off
and
each other, yeah.
exactly it's something not only here, it's existed throughout history. The powerful in cahoots with the people whom we've entrusted the power of the people. That's the sacred power of the people. It should be used for the benefit, for general interests, for the interest of all of us, not for catering
Right,
to
the
to
layman, the working
exactly.
class, the people struggling, they need to be helped and lifted up.
Exactly. Instead of instead of placing priority on doing the best for all of us and advancing the entire society, they work basically for the special interests. And so getting back to addictions, if I were a doctor and I had to prescribe to you a very highly addictive medication, what would be the way to help prevent you from getting addicted to it? Well, I'd give you a small portions spread apart. And that's exactly how political power has to be allocated. This is what our proposal is that we completely eliminate re-election. The message is you get one chance to make your difference in history. There is no reelection. You can't even run for another office while you're currently
Yeah,
serving. You
it's
have to wait
come
2
to that,
years.
right? Yeah.
And so, yeah, you have one chance, and you will be observed, closely. And in terms of like, who are you? Are you
To
spending a lot of
take
time
away
with?
the interest of the person who's elected to.
Yes, exactly. Spend all the time, and also to work with. The thing is that our these long-term politicians, the special interests have them in their pockets. They have them in their pockets, and if there's no reelection though, then there's a lot less incentive for a politician to to cater to that special interest because they're not up for reelection. They don't have to worry about being primaried, which is like primaried is the ultimate horror that all of our politicians, that's the one word that scares them more than anything is being primaried. Well, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this whole idea that you're going to be primaried or you're working to get reelected. No, you're going to have to. The idea is you get one chance to change history. There is no reelection, so make the best of your time. This is your one chance to make history. Are you going to go down in history as somebody who worked to really help advance the interest of the entire electorate, or are you going to go down in history as somebody who used the sacred power of the people to benefit themselves? Either to get reelected, which in case we're going to be, there will be no reelection, or to enrich yourself by being in cahoots with special interests. Like for example, after you leave your term, if you're joining a large firm that you happen to have supported a lot during your term, that will be viewed as very negatively in history. So you'll be held accountable not only by your constituents, but by history as well. And so that's one thing. But our problems are very complex, and that's why I have on solutionsparty.org a sort of a they're complex and they require multifaceted and multiply reinforcing solutions. And so besides getting rid of re-election, there's a whole proposal to rethink the whole idea of political parties. There's the idea to hold politicians and candidates for office responsible for telling the truth. We want to penalize them if they lie. Just like, if a job applicant is lying during the job interview, well, the person doing the interview has every right to kick out that person from the interview.
Yeah,
And
all right.
likewise, if
Before you go too far, I just want to step in and give my 2 cents about
sure,
that. I think you may be right about that people elected president should have one term because it's come to the point where, as you say, it's all about getting reelected, and shorter terms would make it more important for the person to be concentrating on helping the society and working with improving lives in the country instead of just always up on top with all the people who are up on top. So
exactly.
I understand what you're saying. I wanted to tell you
And
that.
so, yeah, this would not just be for the president; it would be for every elected official. And I think in this case, actually, the House members of the House should be given a 3-year term instead of 2 because you want to have a little more time to. But I think 6 years is fine for Senate, and I think 4 years maybe we could do a 5-year term for president if it's just going to be one term. But it should be just one term with not only no chance for reelection, but you can't even run for an office while you're currently serving. Because if you run for an office while you're currently serving, your decisions are going to be primed to try to get you elected for that new office. And we don't want that to be a consideration while they're
I
serving their current
understand that.
term.
That is very honorable. It's like a calm down of the whole government system, like changing focus from, as you
Yeah.
say, trying to get reelected to actually doing the work.
Exactly. I mean, let's look at our Congress. Why is our Congress in both parties so compliant to the executive branch? Well, because their first priority is getting reelected. That's why, they don't want to be primaried. Anybody, for example, who gets out of step with the current president in the Republican Party is going to be primaried. So very few are actually willing to do anything but to, basically carry water for the executive branch. And this works both ways, and that shouldn't be that way. And if you didn't have reelection, if you didn't have to worry about being primaried because there is no chance of that, then I think that they would act with a lot more courage and actually do what they think
I
is right
understand.
instead
Yeah.
of what they think they have to do to keep getting reelected. And again, this all gets down to the age old problem of the addiction of power. It's a theme, by the way, that in the Lord of the Rings, that whole wonderful set of books is basically a commentary on the human, the human weakness
Yes,
when it comes to
I've
power.
watched the movie and read some of the books. So,
Yeah, and
before
so,
you go too far on that
mhm.
tangent, can you tell me and my listeners exactly what it means to be primaried, please?
Okay, primary means, for example, you're in Congress. You're a member of Congress, and you have to vote on legislation. Let's say it's legislation, the big beautiful bill. Let's say
Uh-huh.
now, or the releasing of the Epstein files.
Right.
Okay, if the president doesn't like that. You're going to release, or you're putting
What
through a
you
bill to
do.
force a
Yeah, yeah.
release, yeah, then he will take away his endorsement, and he will endorse somebody
Oh,
else
okay.
during the primary election. Yeah, that's the being primaried means that in order to get to the general election, they have to compete within their own party for their
Basically
parties
going through the
parties.
primary elections. I get it. All right. I just wanted that
Exactly.
to be clarified. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not an official verb to be primaried or to be
Okay, I
primaried.
kind of got it, but then I was sort of fading
Yeah,
with the real meaning, and then I wanted to get back into just what we were talking about. And you were going to tell us more about an analogy about how Lord of the Rings, it's not an analogy, it's just more of how that was a commentary on, you said, society and, or,
yeah. It's like there's a quote in Lord of the Rings at the beginning, and it says, "And nine rings were gifted to the race of men who, above all, desire power." And in that story, the ring is the ring in the novel, and the rings in the novel represent the rings of power and the ruthlessness with which
oh, I see.
uh,
Yeah, it
uh,
clicked. I get it. Yeah. They all wanted
yeah
that ring because it was had
yeah
power. Oh, okay.
they get seduced by the power. The only one who resisted the longest was the little hobbits, who
Right.
just never have really been thinking about power, where had sort of an innocent life. But
Yeah.
even
He had a
they
more,
were seduced.
yeah,
Yeah, even they got
timid, meek,
seduced
mild,
by,
humble, honest.
yes,
So,
yes.
yeah.
But even they got seduced by it, and that's the thing about power. I mean, let's look at people like Putin, or people like
Okay.
like Kim Jong Un in Korea. Now, I
Hmm.
like to say, Vladimir Putin would probably be a pretty nice guy if he were like painting houses outside of Moscow. You could
Yeah.
probably go out to beer and have a great time with him.
Hmm.
Or Kim Jong Un, the North Korean
Hmm.
vicious dictator,
Hmm.
probably a pretty nice guy if you were running an Airbnb in Hawaii and
Yeah.
surfing every day. Why do these people become the vicious monsters that they have become, where they kill their political opponents, they
Wow.
rig elections, invest?
I
What
think the same
changes
thing.
them?
I wonder the same thing myself.
Yeah, these people didn't
And how
start
do
off
they
like
even
that.
get in power? Like, was it born into or elect? It wasn't elected because they're like communists. They don't
Well,
have elections.
well, Well, in North Korea, what happened is after I can give you a little brief history. After World War II, because the Japanese occupied Korea, it was one country, and after World War II came to an end, the Soviet Union got control of the northern part of Korea, which we now know as North Korea, and the United States basically was the power in the south. And the Soviet Union introduced to the North Korean people a soldier. I guess he was from upper echelons of the North Korean army. Kim Il Sung, a man named Kim Il Sung, and said that he was the hero who had saved the country. And so what happened is once the Kim Il Sung came into power, he basically created this personality cult where he's deified, where he was deified. If you go
Yes,
and look at the
I've
North.
read a book. Coincidentally, I picked one off the shelf in the library. It was
Mhm,
about a woman who
mhm.
went there. She was sort of undercover, but she brought back information of what you're saying, what you're saying, that they could not put him. I don't mean to take the details away from you, but something I read is something like you can't throw away a magazine with his face on the cover, stuff like that, and or
Oh,
like
yes,
diss him
exactly.
in any way. The leader is
He
immaculate, has no faults.
Exactly. And so what happened is it became basically a communist monarchy. And I don't even like to say communist because it's just basically a vicious, tyranny, one party
Okay,
absolutist tyranny. And so then when he died, his son became the
I
Kim
see.
Il Sung was called the great leader. Kim Jong, what was his name? There are three of them. Kim Jong Un is the current. Kim Jong Il was the second one, the son.
Okay.
He he became the dear leader, and now Kim Jong Un, which is the grandson of Kim Il Sung, is now the absolute. So he inherited the power. He inherited
Oh,
the
yeah, all
power.
right.
Okay. Now Vladimir Putin moved up through the ranks, and he actually got legitimately elected, but
Yeah.
he has since rigged the elections and made it impossible, basically, for anybody
Ever
to yeah, he
succeeded.
he jails the political opponent, jails or kills the political opponents, rigs the elections. And we saw this even pardon me, in
Another
Venezuela with Maduro. He lost the last election, but again, Maduro was a bus driver, and if he had stayed a bus driver, he'd probably be a real nice guy. You could probably go out and have a beer with them and have a great
one.
conversation. But what turned him, Vladimir Putin, um, Kim Jong Un, and so many of these ruthless dictators, Stalin, throughout Mao, and
Yeah.
throughout history, into these vicious mass murdering killers, and it's their obsession with power. And the
Yeah.
more
I
power you
get it.
have,
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, the
It's
more
the feeling.
paranoid you
It's like a
become.
rush. It's like a high. It's like a feeling of just.
That's exactly what.
It's. I kind of
That's
may think
exactly
it's
what it
what we're
is.
all looking for, but in different ways. I mean, some people need the highest power of being the ruler of. Some people are trying to rule the whole world nowadays. And
Well,
other
that's the
people
thing.
just wish they
That's
had food would give them power enough that they would be satisfied. They don't even have that.
Well, this is why, we humans are very easily corruptible when it comes to power. So how do we prevent this people from being corrupted by power is that you give it out in small one-time segments. That's the only way to break the addiction. So, there is no way you're going to be reelected. You're not even going to be able to run for another office, a different
Okay.
office during your time. So that's the one way you can break this addiction. Just like if I were to have to give you a highly addictive medication, well, the way to prevent you from getting addicted to it would be to give you small portions spread apart. And so, if I had to give you opiates or something, and so that's exactly how power has to be allocated. But we have much
Kind
more
of
to
like
do than just
rationed in a way.
like what? I'm sorry.
Rationed.
Oh, exactly. Yes. And so, people who get, you get one chance to make your difference in history and then move on. That's
That
that.
is
There is no
really
reelection.
fair. That would
Now,
give more people a fair, like a chance, and that would make
well, that
the time that everyone spent in the power seat more quality. It would give it more
well,
quality.
that's exactly right. Yes. I mean, members of Congress have a 95% or greater chance of being reelected. And why is that? Well, the barriers to entry are great, especially if you don't have a major party endorsement. And so, I think that our founding fathers would turn their grave when this. So getting rid of reelection would increase the choice, just like, limiting our presidents to 2 terms gives us more choice. Otherwise, Obama might still be president or Bush might still be president. The fact that we limit those to 2 terms, helps a lot to ensure that we get, a change of the
Right,
guard.
right, yeah.
But let's go further. Let's go further. Let's just make it 1 term. There is no reelection. And then, but this is just the beginning. We have to reform our political parties too. This is another thing
It
besides
needs
getting rid
reform.
of reelection. And so, George Washington warned against political parties because what happens with political parties and what we're seeing
They
is they become
polarize.
tribal. They become tribal, where the
Ugh.
interests of the party become the priority, over and above the good of the country. And we see this time and time again, where they're putting their party first, and this happens everywhere. It's happened throughout history. I mean, let's take an extreme example: the Communist Party. The Communist Party was started supposedly to help empower workers, but what did it become? A vicious personality cult that enriched only the top party members. They talk about communism being classless, but it's not classless because the top party members are some of the richest people in the world.
Right,
And
because they have they have the opportunity to take it for themselves, and no one's stopping them, so they get away with it.
there's no accountability when you have all the power concentrated. That is, a textbook example of how
I get it. I'm
corruption
really
occurs.
understanding more. Thank you.
My pleasure. And so one of the things that I also propose is we put a 12-year limit on political parties. It doesn't have to be exactly 12. It could be 14, 16, but let's have a time limit on political parties. You see, what we want is the best of both worlds. A political party does serve its purpose that people with similar ideas can organize and present candidates accordingly.
There are
We
a
want
lot
that, but
more coming out, a lot more different political parties being started. You
right.
have the
But we want
independent party, the working, I mean, the mothers, all kinds of stuff. I mean, liberal.
right.
So yeah, I
But
mean,
what we
maybe
want though,
it's
but
time for a
what
change. I like your idea because let me say, you are carving the way for something that I would have never thought anyone would have an idea that would be good enough to change what has been concrete, written in stone for the
yeah.
past 500, I mean, how many, 200 years or however many.
Yeah, so the idea is let's disband the major political parties every 12 years. And that means, and you also would forbid or prohibit the leaders of the parties that have just been disbanded from becoming new leaders. Now, some people might say, well, won't the new political parties just be carbon copies of the old ones? And I say, no, I don't think anybody's going to want to start a political party saying that we're going to be just like the last guys. They're going to want to present exciting ideas that get people interested.
Right,
And I think
especially since the young people are growing up and they have their own ideas.
exactly. And so what we want is to have 2 or 3 government recognized political parties, which when I say government recognized is that they automatically appear on the ballot.
Okay.
You could have more political parties, but they won't be. But why do you want 2 or 3 political parties? Because you want to, and you don't want to have 1,500 political parties.
No.
You want to force political parties, the smaller political parties, to coalesce into major political parties. Because, like in Japan, where I used to live, what you have is you've had traditionally one major political party and then a lot of tiny ones, and the little tiny ones couldn't really compete against the one big one. And so what you want to have, it was sort of a divide and conquer strategy, So you want to force multiple smaller political parties to coalesce to become a government recognized party, which a government recognized means you have a certain minimum number of registered members.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
so,
They really
uh,
do need to change and go with the cycle instead of being stuck, because that is probably the whole reason of all the chaos. We're not changing our system when the trends are changing, the world, everything, people's like progressing with the AI and the computers just coming out. How long ago? 25 years? Am I wrong? 50 years ago.
about
And
right.
well,
Well, regarding technology, see, the thing is one of the things I propose in this is that if we get our act together, our democracy, to get our act together, our democracy should easily be defeat the autocracies. Right now, there's a great worldwide struggle between the autocracies and the democracies, and the autocracies recently have been winning. The democracy is in retreat. Democracy, though, if done right, would be far more powerful than the economies. Why? Because there's a freedom and prosperity gap. Why did we win the Cold War over the Soviet Union? Is because the freedom and prosperity gap became too big. Nobody wants to live in an autocracy. I've talked with people from around the world who lived in different countries. Nobody likes to live in an autocracy. Everybody wants to have the freedom to choose their leaders, to not have to worry
right,
about
not be
um,
told and
you know
ordered around, right? And
exactly, not
so,
having to worry about crossing the autocrat and
and get
being thrown into
punished,
jail.
right? Can I interject something? Because isn't there a clause? Tell me if I'm wrong. In the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, all those documents where, or the Constitution, since we're talking about making of the government of the United States, that says
Uh-huh.
that it will change as time changes things. Isn't there a clause that says you have to keep changing with the times, or am I wrong?
Well, the thing is the Constitution, number one, was made was designed to be changeable, but not easily changeable, because you
Yeah,
don't want the emotions of the moment
right.
to just cause the conflict. You want to set the bar high, but the Constitution, was meant to be an adaptable
Yeah,
document to the change. And the other thing is that, we have this great philosophical debate in the judiciary between the originalism and what I would call the philosophy that was closer to the Supreme Judge Justice William Brennan, who thought of the Constitution as a living document that
mhm,
that you should interpret according to the circumstance of the moment. For example,
right.
when they wrote the Second Amendment, when they came up with the Second Amendment, the founders had no idea that there were going to be these guns that could, mass kill,
Right.
literally hundreds in a few minutes. And, back then, a musket you would shoot once and it would take you 3 or 4 minutes to reload.
So then they're
And
all just
so
pointing at the Constitution. Look, I meant uh I forgot what the bill
the
number,
Second
the
Amendment,
Second Amendment number, yeah, the Second Amendment, right to bear arms, and they pointing at that when it doesn't apply anymore.
well, it also says, the Second Amendment also says, as part of a well-regulated militia, the
Right.
right to bear arms shall not. And so, you could interpret that, well, okay, if you want to have a firearm, you should be a member of a well-regulated militia. And, the Supreme Court has not interpreted it that way.
Yeah, right.
But
Read the fine print.
yeah, you see, the thing is what I wonder, and a constitutional scholar would, if because the founding fathers, they didn't have any way of knowing that you would have these like AR-15s or these semi-automatic rifles disposal at the disposal of ordinary citizens. And so if they had known
which
that,
is
if they had
crazy.
foreseen that, would they have written that Second Amendment differently? But the also is that, you could really take this argument to an extreme and say, that Constitution makes no distinction between conventional arms and non-conventional weapons of mass destruction. So why couldn't an average citizen get an hydrogen bomb? I mean,
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
I mean, you could interpret it that way because, if you're going to say, well, the right to bear arms means that citizens can get these
Well, I think
military
it's,
style.
yeah, time to use common sense, alter the Constitution. If you want to keep the Constitution as the main rock of our civilization here in America and our government, then you have to change it to fit the time because that is
Exactly.
just common sense, you know?
Of
It doesn't
course,
apply. That
this
was way back when. Things change.
exactly. Exactly. Society, fundamental things that the founding fathers could not have possibly
Yeah,
envisioned. And, the Constitution. But the thing
that's a
is
good
that, the
argument.
Constitution is hard to change. The Constitution is hard to change. But the thing is that if we got our politics have devolved. Our democracy should be a competition of ideas and vision. But what is it? It's a tribal war based on emotion manipulation and lies. Our
Yeah, it's like
somebody asked,
whims, just like, you know, flitting across the page. It's just like, oh, I think I'll do this now. Oh, I think I'll do that now over here, over in this country, over in that country. I think I want that country. Oh my God.
yeah. Well, if you look, the whole our politics now, like Donald Trump is basically an entertainer, and our politics have become basically this one big emotion manipulating entertainment
Mhm.
venue. And there's not about ideas; it's about manipulating people's emotions, and we've got to get our comp our democracy to be a competition of ideas. There are great ideas across the political spectrum. That's our greatest strength as a country. It's the ones who's lived in a country in China, for example, where only one idea is permitted. Our country should be far superior when it comes to innovation, when it comes to moving things forward, because a competition of ideas is really how great things happen. But we don't have that. It's a lot of well, let's talk about like the emotion manipulation that goes on about all the misinformation goes on about immigrants and
Yeah, we have to speak up
the
for ourselves. That's what it is. That's what it
and the emotion
is.
manipulation where
And they
the
kill people, so no one wants to speak up. No one, everyone's okay. We're going to let them do what they want. Hope it's not me, because no one wants to go up against them when they're just shooting random people who are like guiltless, practically.
Right, exactly. And so, we have a lot of. If you look, for example, at our press secretary, she's purposely shrill, purposely petty, purposely obnoxious, and she's that way. In fact, everybody in the administration is like that because they want to stoke people's emotions, and that's what our politics have become. It's become this, and that's what our news stations have become, by the way, too. I mean,
Yeah.
in the old days, to start a newspaper, for example, you had it took a huge investment. You had to have the printing presses, you had to have the journalists, you had to have a way to distribute it, you had to have an advertising department. It was not trivial. And starting a television news station or a radio news station, these require significant investments. But now any Joe with a laptop and a web page can start a news, quote unquote, news site.
Yeah.
And what happened, what the terrible ramifications of this is that the conventional model of news has broken down.
And so
And
who
that,
gets the followers is the one that everyone listens to. And the
exactly. So
one
how
that's the
do,
most outrageous, the most raucous, and the most crazy and wild is the one everyone wants to watch, the one where people are
well,
laughing. They want to laugh
exactly. So
along.
Fox, So Fox News is not about, for example, or even in MSNBC, these are not about news so much as they are about motion manipulation.
Hmm.
People don't watch Fox to hear news. They want to hear the stuff that's going to, stoke their
Yeah,
anger,
yeah.
stoke their rage. In fact, a former Fox News
What was there's
host
a
wrote a book
oh my
about that.
God, there's a phrase for that. It's something like sensory news or something. Isn't that what it's called?
Yes, yeah, it's basically, yeah, it's entertainment. I mean, let's
Yeah,
just call it what it is. It's entertainment. What is entertainment? Entertainment is something you do to influence people's emotions. You go to see
yeah.
a movie to cry, to laugh, to feel happy. Entertainment is about stoking people's emotions. If you have, how many times you gone to a movie and said, "No, that movie didn't move me,"
Right.
it just and so
When
and so
when
what are
when there's things that really aren't funny, and that's why the mass of the people hate the government, hate rich people, because they're laughing away their lives while they can't feed their children, and
Well,
so we
yes,
need to
and
turn that around.
we can. Yes, we do. And that's the thing. If our democracy is working right, if we have our politicians,
It's
our elected officials
shared
who are concentrating,
resources, shared distribution of shared resources that we have here on the planet together.
well, yeah, you see, that's another thing. It's like, as I propose, in on solutionsparty.org, is that number one, once our democracy is working and we have our politicians really working for us, focusing on ideas and solutions, things will change and get much better. And not only that, we will begin to win the war against the autocracies. Number two is reforming our economy by basing it on unlimited energy and a creative and adaptive workforce. Now, unlimited energy, you see, the thing is that it's a whole sham, this whole being based on the fossil fuels,
Hmm.
because fossil
They're going to get
fuels
used up,
are, well, not
right?
only that, it's a worldwide traded
Pollution.
the pollution, and it's a worldwide traded commodity, and the supply is limited,
Yeah,
and that means that the price is, you supply and demand. That means that
yeah.
the price is subject
Going to go
to
high.
supply, but but like unlimited energy exists. We have unlimited energy in the sun, in the rays of the
Yeah.
sun, in the
The
wind,
wind, the
in the
water.
tides,
Yeah.
geothermal, even
And
nuclear.
we could
Why,
use it. So why aren't they? I don't understand.
well, because because our politicians are working for the fossil fuel. The fossil fuel companies
Oh,
have it great. They have it great. Okay, let's look at, when you think about the fossil fuel. Okay, they have a business model that is envy of the world. What is the best business model to be in? Is when your customers have to come back and continually buy your product. How
so,
many thousands of
yeah.
dollars do each one of us send each year to the fossil fuel companies?
Mhm.
They have repeat customers. Number two, that energy is the foundation of the economy, so that gives them immense power.
So they can keep
Number
their
three,
homes heated and their lights on.
energy is the foundation of our civilization and our economy. And so, if we base our economy on fossil fuels, that gives the fossil fuel companies immense power, and
Mhm.
they enjoy the protection of the U.S. military. That's why we have the Strait of Hormuz being guarded by the U.S. Navy at
Okay.
$80 billion a year to the taxpayer. And so we could completely get rid of that. Well, not completely, but vast majority, and base everything on unlimited,
Kind of
locally produced.
wean off of it and try to use more natural resources that won't use up our resources.
Yes, they see that there's a difference because fossil fuels are non-renewable
Yeah.
resources, which means there are ever less of them. And so when you have a situation where more and more people around the world are competing for less and less of a resource
Mm.
because it's
It becomes
non-renewable,
like
that's not
gold.
a form.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a formula for prosperity. But when you have the energy, unlimited energy, as the foundation of the economy, then you can do all sorts of wonderful things. And so
Yeah.
the idea is very simple. You have unlimited energy, and you combine that with a
It's
creative
like
and adaptive
people be
workforce.
smart, right?
Right. And so, we have to invest. besides in energy infrastructure and renewable energy infrastructure, we have to invest in our people so that education is a lifelong and easily accessible resource.
Investment
Because
too, yeah.
in a market economy, it's very dynamic, and you've got to be adaptable, not well adapted. Those who want the government to, like the coal industry, want the government to protect their jobs. Well, that's what they do in socialist companies. In a capitalist market economy, which is a very efficient way for solving problems and improving people's lives, you've got to have an adaptive and creative workforce, and so you get that by investing in education. And
Right.
right now, it's a terrible situation because kids are going to college or they graduate from high school unprepared, or they go to college, they accumulate, huge amounts of debt, and they graduate, and there are very few good jobs available.
Hmm.
And so we don't want we want education to be a low risk, high return investment where you can go to school, get your degree at a very reasonable cost, just like they have in countries like Germany, where you can go and get education at college level or graduate level,
Yeah.
basically for free. And when we talk about education, I'm not talking about
I know the
college
cost
or
deterred me. I've been applying in a couple
yeah.
places. They're like, "Oh, free tuition. Oh, really low cost." I try. I'm like, I can't afford that with what I'm getting.
Yeah,
So
well, that should never be money should never be an issue for getting, I believe, for getting education and improving yourself.
yeah,
And so have our government. And when I say education, I don't mean everybody getting a PhD in computer science or
right.
chemical engineering. It could be
Trade
learning to be a
schools,
plumber,
anything. Yeah,
learning to be a plumber, learning to be a heavy equipment operator, learning to manage a restaurant, whatever it is,
whatever you're interested.
make. Yes, the skills that you want to learn, whether it is operating heavy machinery or whether it's getting a PhD in chemical engineering, is accessible. It's not going to break the bank. Very affordable, and we want to make that. So we want educational infrastructure to be easily accessible so that our workforce can quickly learn new skills and adapt. And once you
And
have, I say,
adapt
an
is the
adaptive
main
and
key word. Adapt. That's the
yes,
main
an
key word.
adaptive and creative
That
workforce combined with
what will
unlimited
bring
energy.
us further along down the road.
Yes,
In a
exactly.
peaceful
And you
way,
want to,
in a cooperative way, in a, getting along and everyone's happy sort of way.
well, once we have, a democracy that's working, and once we have an economy that's based on unlimited energy and a creative and adaptive workforce, then the prosperity will come. And the middle class will grow. And we want to have an economy where, the rich get richer, but the middle class, the percentage of wealth that the middle class owns gets ever bigger. That's the true
It's
mark of
kind of
success.
like
Right now,
letting go of outdated systems and ways of doing things that we have been holding on to, and it's just
yeah,
not working anymore.
what we have to do, it really comes down to this: addressing the fundamental weaknesses of our democracy. Our fundamental weaknesses of our economy, of our democracy, include our politicians who get addicted to power. Well, that's one. Another is putting into place a way to encourage or even obligate our politicians to be truthful, because right now they're lying all the time. They are lying
Yeah,
all the time, and that can completely destroy democracy, because unless the voters
they just
are
think it's a
given,
joke. They just don't care. They just go on
yeah,
their way.
the voters
Mm.
cannot make wise decisions if they don't have accurate information. And our politicians, they lie and they deceive people. And then our press is so discredited that people don't know what to think anymore. That's why we have so much division and
Mhm.
so much
Yeah.
people believing these really screwy ideas,
So
because we don't
journalism
have
too, you think should be also improved and just
it. Well,
rebooted,
let me just
whatever
say
you
this.
call it.
You know, if you consider the pen mightier than the sword, which I
Yeah.
do, then our journalism, the robustness of our journalism, needs to be placed at the equivalent level of our armed forces, our defense forces, because our armed forces defend us from enemies from without, but our journalism protects us from enemies from both within and without.
Right.
And so
It's
the
kind of like,
proposal I have,
it's a connection between the higher ups and the people who are just day to day people. It's how they learn what is, it has to be truthful, or what's the point?
yeah, and right now, one of the great problems in our country is we don't have a common set of facts that we can agree on because our journalism has been so discredited. Because, as I explained, the conventional model of journalism has broken down. I mean, back 50, 60 years ago, when Walter Cronkite said, "And that's the way it is," the vast majority of the country believed it, and that meant allowed our voters to make decisions based on accurate information. And we got to get back to that. And the way to get back to that, what I've proposed, is that we start a national journalism fund, which means the government contribute to it, corporations contribute, individuals contribute. And so if you get a journalism degree or a certified journalist, you will automatically qualify for a stipend, a monthly stipend. And that stipend can increase based on your rating as a journalism. For example, we can have a system in place to rate our journalism, just like we have Rotten Tomatoes for movies. We could have AI programs and journalist evaluators who will evaluate the quality of the articles being written by our journalists and our news organizations. Are they based on fact? Are they citing their are they neutral?
Yeah.
Are they well written? Are they pertinent? Things like that. And you give the journalist a grade, and the higher the grade, the bigger the stipend they get. And
And
this would bring back small.
who would rate them? Did you say AI or something different? I don't know.
Well, you want to have sort of a Rotten Tomatoes like a rating system where you have professional journalist evaluators, but you could also have AI
Oh,
do it too. Have a bunch of AI programs evaluating the neutrality of the article,
okay.
the pertinent, how pertinent the article is, how well sourced
That
the
would be a
data
good use,
behind the
yeah,
article is.
for it.
And then you see you could get a journalism degree and you wouldn't have to scramble to find a job. We want to have journalism be a career that people can be excited about and not have to worry about, can concentrate on getting pertinent articles
Yeah,
and
get the
relevant
news
articles
out,
out
the articles out. Yeah.
instead of worrying about how they're going to pay for themselves. Because, like I say, this investment in our journalism is crucial to getting our democracy back in shape again. Because unless we have a common set of facts and a trusted news, a news media, we're going to have what we have now, where you have people believing all sorts of crazy stuff. Nobody knows what to believe anymore,
Hmm.
and because of this our politicians are taking advantage to control the narrative, because they can say whatever news they don't like is fake news, and they can claim, I mean, that's why Trump calls his social media platform Truth Social. He wants people to think that he has a lock on the truth,
Oh,
when
I
actually
didn't
what he's
notice
doing
that
is
yet.
he's control he's yeah, I mean, that's what the Soviet Union, Pravda, the Soviet Union newspaper, meant truth in the Soviet Union. And so
Mhm.
politicians want to have control of the
Mhm.
narrative,
Yeah.
but if you have a robust journalism, then they can't do that. They have to answer to
And you
the
just don't know
realities
what's
that are
going to
being
happen
reported.
next, and you have to have a trusted source because you want to know the truth, so you know
Right.
what's going. You don't want to be in confusion, like, what's really going on? Wait, you know. Mm.
Yeah, so those ideas about journalism are proposed on my article, Making Journalism Great Again, on
Mhm.
solutionsparty.org. You can
Okay.
find, and also the articles about reforming political parties is on that blog as well, and the articles about energy and prosperity are there as well. And so they're a whole, and like I say, the problems in our country are very complex, and they require a
I will.
multifaceted and mutually reinforcing approach in order to solve them. And that's what I've tried to do with solutionsparty.org.
Okay, I will put that link on the podcast description for anyone who
Well,
wants to
perfect.
go there and learn more about these wonderful, great ideas that I think should be put into practice.
Well, I'm planning on. I've been living, as I said, in South America. I'm coming back from South America. I'm gonna really try to kick this into high gear starting next month. And so, anything that, and I'm always open for ideas. I want a free exchange of ideas, and critique is fine. I'm all for critique as well. And so, let's get the ideas flowing in an atmosphere of respect and enthusiasm.
Well, thank you very much. That was brilliant, Evan Jaqua.
Well,
So,
my pleasure. It's and there's so much to talk about. If you would ever like to focus on one of the articles, we can have another chat
yeah.
again and just concentrate on just one of the
Yeah.
ideas
And so,
at a
would
time.
you like to, is there anything you would like to leave our listeners with from today?
Yeah, I would just like to say this is. I know we hear this a lot, and but I really want to emphasize that this is a crucial time in not only the history of our country, the history of the world, because this great experiment in democracy is exactly that. It's an experiment. Throughout history, nations have been ruled by small groups of very powerful people, kings, monarchs, warlords. Democracy is the first system that actually gives power to the people, but there are people in this world, powerful people, who want to take us back to a time where small groups of elites
Okay.
rule nations. And the problem is that the technology now exists is that once power becomes concentrated, they can use AI and ever-present surveillance technology to ensure a permanent lock on power.
To
That's
control
why,
and
and
manipulate. Yeah.
that's why it's crucial that we see what's at stake here, and we turn the tide and not only make our democracies robust here and around the world, but we want to eventually get rid of the world of autocracies. And how are we going to do that? By getting our own act together at home, creating a freedom and prosperity gap that is just too much for the autocracies to resist. And so it's really, really a critical time due to the how technology can now be used, like it's being used in China, to ensure a permanent and ever more vicious stranglehold on power.
Okay. Well, I think that's it. And we have learned a lot. I know I have learned a lot, and I really enjoyed our discussion. So maybe we can
Well,
expand more on a certain topic another time. But I want to thank you, Evan Jaqua. Thank you so much. And I hope this
well,
was fulfilling to you to be able to express yourself about your initiative, the Solutions Party, which I think is a great idea.
well, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this, and the only frustrating thing is that there's so many different aspects to talk about. It's kind of hard to get it all out there,
Pinpoint.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I hope that we can do this again sometime soon. And I just want to emphasize again how much I've enjoyed this, and I hope that your audience finds it interesting as well. And will contact me, by the way, if they can contact me at info@solutionsparty.org. That's on the website. And I'm on X at _ Solutions Party, and I usually post daily. So please, feel free to contact me, share with me your ideas. And this is all about, all of us moving forward together. And let's make
Okay,
things
you
better. We
got
can
it.
make things better.
Thank you very much. That is all for
Thank you.
today, everyone. Everyone go to his link and tell him your ideas about how to make the world a better place. And I guess America especially, I don't know. I think we concentrated mostly on America's government since that's
Yeah,
where I live, but I don't know. But
that's step one. That is
yeah.
definitely step one.
So much power and peace in the future, just in small amounts for you and for everyone. And God bless from Summer Austin, Worldview from Nowcast podcast. Thank you, Evan.
Thank you, Summer. Appreciate it.
Okay. Goodbye now,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye.